Okay, I'm going to admit up front, both the statement and the story I'm going to be sharing with you today, I would probably be much better off if I just didn't say it. If I actually had the control in myself to kind of button my lip and not say anything. But I'm going to anyway. Now, it really surrounds a statement that I'm fairly guilty of using pretty often, and that is the statement, I don't mean to complain, but. Now, when I use that statement personally, it generally falls into two, maybe three categories. For example, sometimes when I use this statement, I don't mean to complain, but what I really mean by that is I realize in myself that it's falling on deaf ears. My complaints are going nowhere, nobody cares, and I would probably be better off just to say my words. Sometimes, however, I use the statement, I don't mean to complain, but, and what it means then is I don't mean to complain, but I'm willing to do it anyway. I just don't care in the moment, and so I determine to complain in spite of having a better judgment. And then rarely, but it does happen, I'll admit, I use the phrase, I don't mean to complain, but when I really should be telling the truth and just saying, I do mean to complain and I really don't care who doesn't like it. Now, I rarely fall in that category, and today's story doesn't fall in that category at all. It kind of falls in the middle one there where I'm saying, I don't mean to complain, but I'm just determined against my judgment, I'll do it anyway. So, with that being said, here's my brief story about what I'm dealing with right now. And that is back on 11/11/24, so time of the video about 6 weeks ago-ish, I actually went in for my semi-annual cardiac checkup, basically. I go into my transplant clinic twice a year. Usually, I go into May, and I have kind of the full workup, and then when I go back in November-ish, generally speaking, I have blood work, EKG, echocardiogram, and then I see the doctor. That's all I really deal with. Lickety-split, I'm in and out, no big deal. And that's what I had done on that day, 11/11. I went in and had all that done, with the exception when I got down to my echocardiogram, they came in like they often do, and they said, Jim, do you mind if we add some Definity to you through an IV just so we can get some better pictures? And I know what that is. Sometimes I take it, sometimes I turn it down. It kind of depends on whether or not I'm concerned about anything that's going on, or I know that the doctor is. If they're not really concerned and I'm not, if I feel great, I'll probably turn it down. But on this day, I knew I needed it. I knew that they were needing some special information, so I said, yes, I'll take the Definity. And if you're not familiar with that, that's basically a dye that they can inject that really does enhance the pictures greatly over an echocardiogram. So I agreed to that. Now, in order to do that, they do have to place an IV. And me being who I am, anytime anyone asks me to place an IV, I immediately start kind of pointing into my elbows right here. That's preferably where I want my IVs placed, in spite of the fact sometimes they'll say, oh, you don't want it in the bend of your arm, it might bother you. No, I do. I want it in the bend of my arm. The higher up on the arm to go, the bigger the veins they can hit, easier it is to hit. In and out's a lot easier for me, so that's what I generally ask. But there are some rare occasions when I get a technician, or if you will, a person in there that's trying to set that IV or place the IV, and they just can't seem to find anything. They tap around, they beat around, they can't find any veins that are really standing out anywhere. And oftentimes they'll say, do you mind if I go in your hand? And I'm generally pretty rude about it. I try not to be, but I generally say, no, absolutely not. You're not touching my hand. Stay away from my hand. Nobody touches my hand. And that goes back to something that happened to me. It's been 13, 14 years ago when I was actually having to have some IVs placed, and they were preferring the hands. I was having what's on this side? I was having my ICD put in, and they had to put an IV in both hands, and they had to do it in the hand. And at that point in time, somebody hit a nerve or something. I literally passed out. That's how much pain I was in. Just the moment the needle went in, I passed out. And I said, never again after that. But through the years, on rare occasions, I've let somebody stick my hand. But again, I'm always very hesitant and generally just tell them up front, we ain't doing that. And again, it might be dependent on what the procedure is and how badly I need it. In this case, Definity, generally I would have said, no, if you're sticking my hand, it's a no-go. But on that day, I needed it done. So I kept suggesting other areas where this tech or nurse could stick. And she kept saying, oh, I can't find a vein here. I can't find a vein there. So finally, she said, I'll tell you what, I'm going to go for the hand, but I promise you there's this is her quote, there's a big fat vein right there. I'm going for it. I can get it on first try. I said, okay. I kind of put my hand out there like they asked me to. They had put on the tourniquet. I took a deep breath, tried to let it out, and she went for it. And in my opinion, 100%, I'm sure she missed the vein altogether. I mean, she either missed it or she went right through it, which I think the latter is probably true. She went through it or all the way through it. It didn't work. And I could feel from the moment that she did it, it hurt. It hurt bad. I mean, I'm not a whiny baby. We've all been through a lot, right? We've been through some difficulties and probably some severe pain over time, but this one hurt. It hurt bad. I didn't pass out, but it hurt real bad. And I told her, I said, you missed. No, I didn't miss. I got it. I got it. And I could tell by just where they try to draw back at least a little blood, and then they put in a little bit of saline. I could tell it didn't work, but hey, she wasn't giving down. She wasn't backing down on what she had, and I'm regretting the fact that I had backed down to allow her even to touch my hand. But at that point, I said, forget it. Either the Divinity goes in or it doesn't, and either way, I'm going on my echocardiogram. So they proceeded to work some more and start, do the second phase of the echocardiogram there with this theoretical IV going in that I knew wasn't going anywhere. Fast forward, by the end of the echo, I come out of there, man, my hand is pounding. I mean, I've got just a small little wrap on it. It bled quite a bit because I think it was either blown or what have you, but it had bled quite a bit. And so I had a small little wrap around it, when, I'm not a wimp again, so I tried to ignore it. But fast forward throughout that week, okay, for the rest of that week, for the entirety of that week, man, my hand was blue. You could still see the prick mark where she went in. It was terrible. I mean, I didn't want to move my hand. I was having to ice my hand and go through all this stuff, all the while knowing in the back of my mind that not on 11/11, that's the date of that, but on 11/26, I was going to have to go in for a heart catheterization where they intended, guess what, to go into my wrist. Now, I'm totally against radial heart catheterizations in general. Again, maybe I should have learned a lesson, but that again was going to be the best route, the safest route to do what they need to do, just some exploratory stuff, specifically requested by my doctor based on some issues I were having. That's another video you can watch, by the way. I'll link it up here or put it in the description, but I knew I had to have that done. So I go in, and lo and behold, like I expected, they placed an IV in my arm up on this side, right where I requested. But of course, the catheterization itself, angiogram, went into my wrist. It was radial. They went right, I don't know if you can see that, went right there with it. And honestly, it wasn't that bad. Not in the beginning, at least. It really just wasn't that bad. Day 1 was fine, at least. Day 2, it hurt. 3, 4, it hurt. I had pains shooting all the way up my arm. I could feel every movement they made. And again, that's in another video, so I'm not asking that. But I could feel every movement. I was definitely aware that I had had that catheterization done. So now my arm hurts for a whole different reason besides the IV that was placed the week before. Fast forward, they did order then a stent to be placed. But they determined to go ahead and order that stent. So they get ready to place the stent. Very successful. Again, had video on that already. But they went through the same access area, right? Through that radial wrist. And there's 2 little dots here now. There's 1, 2 right here. And they went in pretty much the same. A lot of pain for a while. But not terrible. Same pain up my arm. That sort of thing. I got through it and moved on. However, here we are from 11/11 to time of the date of the video today being 12/18. So we're over a month, 5 weeks-ish. I'm making up. Maybe I don't know to do math well, but it's been a long time. Guess what hurts? Is it the first radial cath? No. Is it where they place the stent? No. Is it where they place the IV where you can't see anything at all? Yep, that's it. Here we are, 5+ weeks out and going forward, and my hand is still, as my mama would say, as sore as a rising. I don't know if you use that term, but in the South, that means it's sore. It hurts. And it's really not a constant pain. It's just if anything brushes up against it, if you bump it on anything, man, it is sore as a rising. So that's what I've been dealing with. In addition to that, for whatever reason, mysteriously throughout the day, depending on what I'm doing, if my hands have been to my side for a while, maybe the blood's flown down or whatever, throbbing, pounding pain shoots through. The worst case scenario, though, is I go in to take a shower, and I like fairly warm to / hot showers sometimes. I go in and take a shower, and when that warm water hits this, it's like something re-swells or something. Oh, excruciating pain. I go to wash my hair or wash my body. Not with this hand. This one's useless. Once it gets warmed up, the pain is back. And I don't know how that is. Well, again, bruising is pretty much gone. I think it is. You can tell me in the comments. You think it's gone. The mark's definitely not there. Still a little puffiness in that part of the vein, but hey, it's pretty much gone. But the pain hasn't subsided. It's not gone away. And so I got 2 or 3 things to say about that. One, I want to ask you, have you dealt with that? And I'm not trying to be a wuss or anything, not trying to be a whiny baby. And I've had hundreds of catheters placed and or IVs placed in my life, kind of the same thing. An IV is a catheter, but I've had hundreds of them placed. I've had them put when they were running out of veins because of all the blowing I was doing prior to transplant. They've been all up both arms. They've been in my shoulder with one. They put one in the top of my foot. I mean, I've had a friend put one in his big toe. Didn't have that to do, but I've had them in my feet, anywhere they could find access. And I've never had one. And all the ones that I've had, never had one feel like this. Now, I've had some hurt worse. I've had some where the swelling and bruising was horrible, but it went away in a week or so. Not like this, not 5+ weeks out and still hurting. So have you ever experienced anything like that? Do you have a tender spot or sores arising spot that come up because of an IV? So that's a question I have. Now, a statement I want to make. And I'm making this statement to you because I'm using you kind of as a sounding board, and at the same time, I'm using the camera lens as a mirror to remind myself, look, if you're not comfortable with something being done, a procedure or a way of procedures being done, in this case, an IV in my hand, no go, tell them. Stand up for yourself. Now, if it's a life or death situation, you stick an IV where you can get it. If you need access, go for it. But in this case, it wasn't. So what I'm reminding myself and you of is this: stand your ground, okay? Stand up for yourself. Don't let them convince you of one thing or another. I know what was going on here. This lady's preference was the hand, and she could see some easy, so she thought veins, not realizing those veins roll and all the things that go on in there. She just wanted the easy route. And I should have stood up. I should have continued to say, no, no, no. And if it meant it, I would have turned down that day. I would have turned down the Definity in spite of the benefit. I would have turned it down. It wasn't life or death. Or maybe I could have convinced her to try other areas. I don't care if she sticks me 4 times in my arm and maybe misses on the first 3. It's fine if we can set one that doesn't hurt 5 weeks later. So yeah, I don't mean to complain, but I just did. So tell me about your experiences. Have you experienced anything like that? And if so, what did you do about it? And then another way to saying it again, don't ever let them push you over. Stand up for yourself. We deserve it. We're the best and we deserve the best. Till next time, stay stronger, my friend.